Hey there, it's Kim from marymore.com. I'm here to give you guys a realistic look at the watercolor brushes that I've created. So I'm going to start off by saying there's 32 regular brushes and one blender for a total of 33 brushes. And there's also 4 watercolor paper textures that you can use. When I'm working with the watercolor style brushes, I like to set my blend mode to either multiply or linear burn. In this case, I'm going to work with linear burn. And I'm going to start off at the top here with the blender to show you, first of all, that the blender has no color whatsoever. Is just used for blending your work. The second one is the polka dot brush. And I'll let you know first off that I'm using my brushes pretty much at the largest size. I want you guys to be able to see fully what the brushes look like live. So the blending on this brush is really good. Again, but if you wanted to blend it even further, you can come in and set your blender as your smudge tool, or just use the brush, blending brush as it is a brush, and then just come in and further blend this out. Okay, next up is we're going to go through some pattern brushes, some sprays, water drops, and then a couple stamps. So first, the pattern brushes here, as you can see, you can move around that color a bit, and then you can take it even further by adding another color, and then grabbing that blender and further blending these two together, just like this. So this is really good for background work. Next up, the same thing, just a different shape. We've got splotches instead of the spots. Now are the sprays. So again, this is a very large brush. Let's lower that a little bit. And you can see here, again, just another splotchy style pattern brush. Another spray, and again, this one here blends quite well. There we go. And again, this one also blends quite nicely. There you go. And finally, the third spray. This one here I like to use on background work, so I'll go ahead and throw in a few colors here. And I like to use the liquify with this one. And you could do that with any of these, but I just prefer with this one. I don't know, it just, for me, it works really well when I'm trying to create a background. So, and that's an up close look at how those kind of turn out. Let's just clear this. All right, so here are the water drops. Just like that. Next up is the second water drop. Another water drop here. And this is the last water drop, or drip for the last two, I should say. The next couple, the next few, actually 3, are stamps. This is the first stamp here, so you can see lots of texture coming through on that one. This is the second one. And the third one. All right, so the next, quite a few brushes actually that I go through, they're all called liner brushes, and you'll see why in a minute. So I'm just going to quickly run through these, and I'm going to do most of them on a very large size. This one here might be hard. Again, this is one that I use at its very largest size to create backgrounds. So let me clear this out. All right, so let's lower the size on this one a bit so you can see how it works. And I'm just kind of putting in some color, and then I'm going to kind of define my shape here. And then I can bring it down a little bit further, bring in a little bit more color here. And just keep doing that, you know, with however many colors or however you want to blend this together. So with this one here, I would most likely use my blend tool and just further blend this together, just like that. Okay, so the reason I call this the liner is for this reason here. And once I started using these, I was actually doing some floral patterns and some leaf patterns, and I created this brush to actually create that stem. So while this one doesn't have, it's got a little bit more of a bleed here, a circular bleed. The rest of the brushes are not like this, but this one here, if you wanted to use those also for like a line or a stem or things like that, this would work great. All right, so the next two are the shadow liners. Let me change my color here. And again, I'm working at a large size. So just so you know, the bleeds on these larger size brushes are going to be pretty big. So if you want your bleed here to be less, just lower the brush size a bit. Okay, so just know that going on. I'm not going to repeat that every time I do a new brush. But okay, so I'm just going to again get my basic shape in. And again, the whole stem thing kind of came from just me working with florals and things like that. So I can go ahead and get that stem look, and this blends really quite nicely with the other color on the same layer. And I'm also getting some highlights and some shadows going on in here with these darker colors. If you want to further bring in more color, just go right ahead and again bring that size down a little bit and just start bringing that color in. And if you want, you can go ahead and grab your blending brush and just blend this even further. So so that's the first one. And the next one is the second shadow liner, and this one here is a little bit more on the soft side. So again, I'm just going to do that same style shape, and I'm still getting that highlight. I can add a little bit of a darker color by coming in and just adding that shadow. I can use my blend brush once more to further blend it, and then I can use this to make my stem. Just like that. All right, so the next two brushes are the wet liner brushes, and these work the same. This is actually just, as you can see, a little bit more on the wet side, so I'm moving more of this color around. So as I'm using it, the color will get less and less bright. So again, I can go ahead and darken this up, add that stem here, just like that. The second wet liner, bring that size up so you guys can see it. Same thing, we're moving that color around the more we go over it. And I can go ahead and add some more color in here. And then maybe add that stem. So you can see how this one works as well. Just a little bit more on the blotchier side. The next two are soft brushes. And once again, I'll make sure that that's up to its largest size. And again, this one here, more of a soft style. It also has more of a dry look to it than the last couple brushes that had more of that wet watercolor look. So I guess you could say that these two kind of look like they were already dried. So, and there is a look at that. Okay, so we have one more, and this is the jagged edge the outliner. Again, we have a little bit more of a kind of a jagged bleed there. And then once again, you can just go ahead and add that stem, and the blending is really nice on this one as well. All right, so the next four brushes are mostly created for lettering. So I'm just going to start off with the first one, and this is just the first outline brush. So that is with red. And some of these work with different colors. So they work better with certain colors. Like this one here, obviously we've got a lot more color going on here. And this has to do with what the blend mode is set to on the brush itself, not the layer. So if you are wanting to change this, you can go ahead and go in and change this. But this is what gives this brush its style. So depending on the colors that you use, you'll get different results. So anything like really bright, you're going to have a color inside. Otherwise, you're going to have this, what looks like an outline, but actually is not. So what I use these for in this outline style is, let's see here. Whoops, let's go back here. This outline style, I will go ahead and do all my lettering first, and then I will go ahead and select this layer, create a new layer, and come down with any of my brushes here. Let's just do this one, and I'll just go ahead and start putting my color in on this second layer, just like this. We'll do maybe some blue in here, like this. And then once again, I'll come in and grab my blending brush and just start kind of blending this to make it look realistic, just like this. I try not to leave any bare white spots, just in case you decide to get rid of this outline layer. So make sure that that new layer is set to linear burn. That makes a huge difference, as you can see. So if I go to normal, it looks, well, not that great. But once we set it to linear burn or multiply, we really get that look. Okay, so if we take this away, you can see that we have that watery, you know, watercolor look here. But you can always add this back in and have, you know, maybe like that lined look. So it's up to you. You can also too come into this layer and blend. Let's bring that down and blend this in to your lettering, so it doesn't have to stay so so dark and kind of out of place. Okay, so anyway, that's what I use this particular brush for. So we had, this is the next brush here, and this is another really cool style. Same thing, I think this one is also set to a different blend mode, and that's what makes this brush look this way. So again, just, you know, different colors have different looks. So again, we got the outline style. The difference with this brush here is you have that watercolor texture in it already. So if you wanted to just leave it as it is, you can do that as well. Another thing that I like to do with my lettering is I'll go ahead and grab just a smaller brush. And it doesn't matter what brush it is, but I'll bring a new layer underneath and kind of just add my own shadows, and then I'll start blending these down. So you have, you know, a little bit of a shadow, and it kind of makes it look a little bit better. So just a little trick that I do on most of my lettering. Okay, so back to this. That is the second lettering brush. We'll clear this, and we'll go down to this one here. Yes. Okay, so this is one of my favorite brushes, and when I use this, I'll show you what I actually do to this brush to make it look like realistic watercolor. So let's draw actually two letters that connect. Okay, so again, this is where I use my blending brush, and you can see that it has these really kind of jagged edges. From far away it looks all right, but once I come in and start blending these down, just like this, that looks a lot better, just like using it that way. And I just do this all the way around. It also works here too when you're blending in two colors together. So just like that, and just blend this down, this as well. So you get the idea, but that's what I do with this here, just to get those edges a little bit more on the soft side. So I've done a lot of lettering with this particular brush. Okay, next up is a dry brush, and this is where the actual watercolor brushes come in. And I'm going to go through and I'm just going to show you what the brush looks like when you're using it, and I'm also going to show you how it blends. So this here again is the dry brush, and it accumulates, so the more you go over it, the darker it gets. Otherwise it is pretty much the same. So blending is not the greatest with these two, but if you're after that dry look, just grab your blending brush and they blend perfect together. Next up is the wet blender. So this is what a stroke of the wet blender looks like, and this is how it looks blended. Let's do one more color here, and this blends pretty nicely actually. I like the way it blends. Next up is the textured wet. So you can see that this has its own texture as well. So without having the paper, obviously you wouldn't get the same look, but it has a bit of a texture to it itself. Again, this blends pretty nicely. You're getting a little bit more paint coming through, so it's not as transparent, but it trails off into a more transparent brush, so this also blends nicely. All right, so this is the realistic watercolor brush, and again, how it blends. Pretty nicely. I however go ahead and use my blending brush with these to blend those further. And the next is the wet brush, and this also builds up as you go over it, but initially it starts out with very little color. Blending quite well. Again, it builds up as you use it, so one stroke across is going to blend this perfectly. Last here is the wet brush, and this is a mix, so let's start with red. And blending here does a pretty good job as well. Again, if you want to further blend, just grab that mixer or that blending brush and further blend it. So that's it. That is all 33 brushes here. I hope that this helped you guys in using it. If you have any questions, you can contact me at my website, marymore.com, or on Creative Market. Thanks for watching. Bye.